All right, gentlemen. Well, very exciting, exciting week. Every day seems to bring up a new little bit of news item that I think either makes it uh, easier, more complicated, changes the dynamics on the ground around how to launch a token. Josh and I were talking in the intro here, just like the unique challenges of. Well, I mean, you guys have been building for years. The metas have changed probably 17 times since then. You're trying to come up with I think an ideological and an inspirational product and launch and token in an era where people are kind of questioning the underlying fundamentals and even using the word fundamental a lot more than I think they ever have in this space generally. So I think we're excited to dive in. And as you know, Mike, probably from your last time on the show with us, Josh is a huge Rainbow user. He's a huge Rainbow points getter. And so I'm intrigued to see how this lands today. He's like one of your core people here. And we've obviously been tracking this quite a bit. So I'm going to let you lead this one, Josh, as I decide to cough here a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like two big issues we're seeing with tokens today are one, I guess just ambiguity around token models and kind of, value accrual to tokens. And the other one, I think just like the vast majority of tokens don't either have a believable growth story or people maybe just don't pay enough attention to understand it. So we would love to start on that latter piece. So can you just kind of help us understand the big opportunity that you guys see with Rainbow going forward?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, we got into this space and started Rainbow back in 2019 when really there were like 3 dApps, right? Like it was like MakerDAO, Radar Relay, right? Like Spank Chain, you know what I mean? There was like very little going on. But it was super obvious to us that this is the future and sort of that this is a better financial system, one that is sort of permissionless, open to everybody, global by default. And, I feel like really now is actually when all of that is coming to fruition, right? Like we're finally seeing the like real sort of adoption and proliferation of stable coins. Where, I think that with that rise of stable coins, we're going to be seeing a lot of more traditional Wall Street incumbents sort of enter the space. And, Rainbow, we really live this shit, right? Like sort of crypto is in our blood. Like we're sort of, deeply crypto native, have sort of been deep in the trenches building as the whole space has evolved for many years. And we just think that, like we think we're very well positioned to beat Wall Street at like, the race to basically build these ultimate on-chain financial experiences.
Yeah, I mean, how do you guys think about the, I guess, differentiation or positioning of the Rainbow wallet today? I think when I started using the product, it was just, your options were basically MetaMask, and then you guys came out and it was just like so obviously more usable. Like even just like whatever, everything was better about it, right? So you kind of had this like huge user experience advantage at the time. I think with, Phantom now, Farcaster wallet, Base app coming, like the competitive environment looks very different and no longer is just kind of, baseline usability an obvious differentiator. So I'm curious how you think about kind of the competitive landscape and what makes you guys think that.
I mean, I think, compared to some of those products that you listed, I think that a number of those have really sort of leaned into a specific specialization, right? And with Rainbow, though, what we're looking to do is, build directly into the product, like, first party, like native experiences, right? Around these core primitives, things like, recently perps. And today we're launching our test flight for our poly market prediction market integration, right? So the goal is to basically directly integrate into the product the ability to sort of jump in and out of any of these diverse protocols and sort of, again, historically, there's been friction in doing that, right? Like you need to have gas in your wallet. You have to have, gas on the right chain in your wallet and things like that. And, something that you'll see in the poly market integration that we're shipping today is we've created a gasless experience, right? And expect more of that to come from Rainbow as we continue to sort of further abstract the differences between these layer 2 networks and, smooth out some of that friction that sort of causes, questions for newcomers when getting into the space, right? Like trying to create a more gasless experience, things like that.
I think to add that all those products are sort of crypto wallets today. And if we believe that all the finance is moving on chain, really the products we're looking at are Robinhood and Cash
Sure.
App and Revolut. And can we build better on-chain experiences than they can before they themselves move
Like, I do think
on-chain?
that, like, sorry to just jump back in, right? But it's like, fundamentally, all of the core beliefs that we had getting in, founding Rainbow in the beginning are finally coming to fruition, right? It's like, if you're a regular person, if you look at your phone, you probably have like 7 to 10 financial apps, right? None of which are interoperable with each other. If you sort of, if you're a college kid and you all of a sudden need to come up with a lump sum of cash to put down on, like, a deposit for an apartment or something, you now need to go collect your money from all of these different apps, wait for the settlement to clear, et cetera, right? With crypto, all of that sort of goes away. You have one financial app where everything is interoperable with each other. So yeah, I think that, like, while other teams are sort of leaning into things like social, et cetera, we're going to be leaning into that, right? Like the all-in-one financial app.
Yeah, it feels like the aggregation point opportunity is really at the wallet level, which I think is probably like the core bet, or one way to say the core bet that you guys have made. And I think it's interesting to see across the board this sort of game plan of, okay, we have the distribution, we have a user group. Now the goal is to kind of vertically integrate, or sort of, maybe is that going horizontal, given that you're partnering with everybody across these sort of applications that are ultimately working. And your ability to kind of be that last mile represents an opportunity to charge fees on top of it. We talked to a bunch of the Solana ecosystem teams last week, and a very similar strategy there, I think, is what Phantom's rolling out, right? I think they announced Kalshi last week as well. And so I think people all recognizing this. And then, so I think from like an investor perspective, what I'm trying to do then is get a sense of where's the advantage at that level, right? Like, and so I guess maybe a place before we can start diving into some more of the details and some of the specific, very unique, I think, approaches you're taking to this token. Can you help us understand the scale of Rainbow today, how it's growing, et cetera? Like, I don't know what metrics you guys are using that you think sort of matter the most, but if you could kind of set the data-backed playing field here, so we have an understanding of where you guys are at in that competition.
Yeah, so right now, Rainbow is at hundreds of thousands of monthly active users. We do millions of trading volume every single day. Over the course of this year, what was called Rainbow V2, we rebuilt a lot of the code base from the ground up. Josh, if you're a user, hopefully the product has gotten much better for you over the course of the year. But that foundation has now allowed us to ship one lunch revenue line every quarter. So last quarter was Perps and Hyperliquid, somewhere around sort of 10 to 15 sort of top builder there. This quarter, it's prediction markets and Polygon market, which is in a test flight here shortly today, and sort of would continue for us to just layer on additional revenue lines each quarter for the foreseeable future.
Awesome. And what does like month over month growth look like? And I'm interested in these. It seems like the core strategy you're running right now is integrating these new kind of desirable products into the app, prediction markets, perps. I think you had a launch pad too. Like, are these big kind of acquisition events, or are those more serving your core base?
So I'd say it's a lot of people who are already on chain. And I think what we're focused on next is tokenized stocks. And I think it's an interesting one for everyone who's looking at it. Since you look at the size of the equities market, it's 2 orders of magnitude larger than the entire crypto market today. But if you look at the trading volume of all the largest issuers, it's like very, very, very small. And trying to figure out sort of why is that? And then how do you move that trading volume on chain?
Alex, I think we're getting a little bit of your very nice starched collar there hitting your microphone, just as a heads up, so we don't want to make your audio awful. Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
so I said, Mike, how much you want to talk about tokenized stocks?
That comes down to, like, again, like, we see ourselves competing with sort of traditional Wall Street incumbents and these sort of general financial apps like Robinhood and Cash App. And tokenized stocks, like, on one hand, it sort of might strike people as like, that's diverging from crypto, but fundamentally, like, again, the core belief is like there's one financial app where all of your assets are interoperable, right? And we do think that there's actually quite a compelling story around tokenized stocks, in particular. Sort of, again, people aren't really running with this right yet, but we're working behind the scenes to make this possible. But to me, there's a huge opportunity to create an experience that allows users to basically migrate stocks that they hold in their brokerage accounts, like, to sort of on-chain tokenized stocks, right? Via an in-kind transfer, right? So basically there'd be like no tax implication there. And to me, that the story there is like really sort of self-evident, right? Like all of a sudden, if you can create like vaults, right, where you could just borrow stables against your equities and then sort of just basically farm those stables. So it's like you could easily create vaults that have a sort of out of the box, much more compelling sort of like, like yield.
If you think about an employee at like a big tech company like Meta or Alphabet or like Coinbase, huge part of their comp is in RSUs. If you want to go and buy a house with that, you're typically having to sell it down, pay cap gains on it. Versus if you're still long the stock, other things that crypto and DeFi is very good at is borrow lend. So you do an in-kind transfer, it's not taxable, and then it's very, very easy and hopefully 1 or 2 taps to then be able to borrow against the tokenized version of those shares.
Do you guys see this being a winner take all market, and you kind of have to go beat Phantom to the next wave of users? I think, we've seen how sticky, once you're onboarded onto a wallet and have your finances there, I think it's a very sticky experience and hard to get people to switch. So how do you think about that competition to the next wave of users?
I don't think it's winner take all, but yeah, I mean, I think that, of all of the sort of, wallet-esque products that you've listed, I do really think that everyone's kind of leaning into different specializations. And I think that really it's going to come down to sort of which one of those plays out correctly. Really, again, like we're really leaning into building the ultimate like on-chain Robinhood experience. And part of that is actually, I think, staying nimble and effectively like trying to, I keep saying on Twitter that like Gary Gensler has like lobotomized the industry, right? And that sort of, there's so many teams out there who are very stuck in the sort of the mindset from a few years ago. And, we are, happy that we have very fully intact brains, and we're going to be moving nimbly to take advantage of these things, right? But like, for example, like, I think that we're going to be one of the first to market with sort of, privacy and anonymity solutions built into the wallet, right? These are things that I think a lot of teams out there still consider like taboo, right? But it's like very obvious to us that, with the proliferation and rise of stablecoins, you're going to be using them in e-commerce. You're going to need sort of built-in privacy and anonymity solutions and things like this, right? So I think that our nimbleness and sort of our willingness to be aggressive is the edge there.
Yeah, let's talk about, we'll definitely dive into the details here, but I do like this sort of, this mindset shift that I think a lot of early founders in crypto have had to go through over the last little while. And I think many are struggling to make that shift. I'm curious, is that sort of like a state of mind? Is it like, I'm curious, what have you been focused on as like the core intent here that's allowed you to update your priors quicker than others?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. LaPrade, do you have an immediate answer coming to mind? I mean, really, it's like I'm just thinking back to like all of the core inspirations, the things that got me excited and motivated when we founded Rainbow. All of those things are true now and happening like now, right? And I think it's so easy to just be stuck in the past, but it really is, a new frontier. Like we have sort of effective deregulation. We have sort of, like the proliferation, adoption of stable coins, right? I think that this is basically the best time to be building in crypto ever.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, my guess is those that have been able to have a product in the market where data was coming off of it, and you're actually very focused on what people want to do, that versus sort of the theoretical, that would be sort of my high level. And I think you guys have been sort of clearly building for users rather than the anticipation of what maybe this hypothetical group of people will sort of bring in or want. So
it requires a balance, right? Because like the stuff that we're talking about with tokenized stocks, right? Like it's not like users are how, but it's like very clear to us that that's a good idea and sort of is going to have sort of traction in the market, even though if you look at the trading volumes of these tokenized stocks today, they're not all that hot, right? But it's like, it's clear to us that there's
we're seeing acquisitions, we're seeing all sorts of stuff that kind of shows that the smart money is making a bet on this. And I would put myself in like both stable coins and tokenized stocks were things that I found profoundly uninteresting until it became interesting. And that there's like maybe the unlock that they bring didn't excite me as compared to like the 1000x I've been chasing on the meme coins. But when you think about the totality of its impact and the competitive dynamics that emerge around it, I think it becomes super interesting. And then of course we ask stupid questions and learn more about how these businesses actually work, and then we go, oh, that's actually very interesting, seeing sort of the volume on these things start to grow. Okay, so I mean, Josh, I want to turn it over to you to sort of lead this conversation of unpacking some of the design decisions these guys have done, because again, I think you are the target of many of these decisions, and I'm curious to see where you've landed.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know, if I think about the best tokens, they're ones that have some easy to understand fundamental value, but also kind of a lot of growth opportunity in kind of the monetary premium they drive because of like their usefulness within a product or a network. So I think maybe to start on kind of the fundamental kind of value piece, I think what you guys are doing with the Class F shares, 20% of equity going to the Rainbow Foundation is very cool. So we'd love you to maybe talk through, I guess, the intention behind that, and interested in what options you guys explored before landing on this structure, and then we can get into details on what it means specifically.
Sure. So I think if we think about almost every business, they're reinvesting back into growth.
Your microphone.
And typically, management,
Just good.
And typically, management teams will only start to return capital to their holders when they run out of ideas on growth, either organically or inorganically in terms of buying companies. And that's typically done via dividends or via buybacks. I think, unfortunately, in crypto, value growth to the token based upon part regulatory, part other reasons. Buybacks have been sort of the primary mechanism for demonstrating value accrual. But from a capital allocation perspective, it's a very poor decision, since there should be much higher rates of return on that capital back into your business, which hopefully we've gone over, rather than returning it to holders. And so from our perspective, the question is, how do you let token holders sort of share in this reinvestment and share that same upside? And the answer is sort of very obvious. You make the foundation the largest shareholder of the Rainbow business. And so I'd say that's where the Class F came from. New class of stock designed to be held by the foundation on behalf of
I'm curious, what in calling it Class F, you're suggesting that it is somehow novel from a structure perspective. I'm not sure if I understand exactly what's different there.
LaPrade like invented this basically. Like this is a brand new structure that was really like designed and pioneered by him.
So Rainbow, like many companies, incorporated in Delaware. Delaware has, I think, very good laws, very good precedent for a number of things. So it is compliant with Delaware law, including everything from rights, shareholder rights, sort of, et cetera, but then making sure that you can tax-free transfer it to a Cayman foundation, and then sort of hold that in terms of where the number 20% came from, largely as much as possible without running into issues around beneficial owners or sort of it being a control.
Yeah, so what are the maybe like precise rights kind of attached to Class F shares compared to other share classes?
Sure. So I'd say it's non-voting. There is drag along. I think a lot of the customary sort of things that you would see. Again, it is held by Rainbow Foundation, separate entity, separate sort of board of directors there, and so the typical sort of lab scope versus sort of foundation.
Got it. So it's sort of acts as a perceptual floor, I guess, from token holders. Obviously, it's directly addressing like the most common complaint that we're seeing on the time, like very timely. I mean, probably every single week we're going to see stuff like this, especially if the market continues. Yeah.
So I think one of the interesting questions there, in the case of, I guess, say Coinbase and Circle, is can they even offer consideration to token holders in terms of where it falls in terms of fiduciary duty? Is it just a leakage of shareholder value? And even if they wanted to offer consideration to token holders, are they going to get sued by their shareholders for doing that?
And I think Coinbase is still being sued for their direct listing, which was God knows how many years ago, right? So yeah, the litigations around this stuff are big. So I guess when I saw that, I was like, cool. It very much sort of is well timed and addresses a core issue. The flip side is, like, when you think about token valuations, there's a lot of, for better or worse, sort of imaginary thinking that people get into, and I would say that in many ways is beneficial. I think the imaginary thinking in pre-seed investing is that this person's going to go build a $1 trillion company, and it's not always the case. And so I think there's sort of like this openness that comes from, or that you want to maintain, as far as whether that's growth or new markets you could go after, et cetera. And so while I see the sort of 20% going to the foundation as like a great from a protection perspective, I wonder if it also creates sort of like a mark in some way on the valuation of this protocol. I'm curious how you sort of think about the impact or like where does this fit amongst the other sort of growth stories or value stories around the Rainbow ecosystem?
Sure. So I think certainly I think one way to think about it in terms of just the terminal value of it is just sort of whatever you value the equity piece at. And but I think for a lot of the companies that Mike has rattled off in terms of Robinhood, Revolut, Cash App, that ultimately those are the kinds of companies that we look up to, the kinds of users that we are fighting for as they move on chain. But I think, let's say, ultimately, I think of the Ben Graham quote around sort of in the short term market is a voting machine, long term it's a weighing machine. And I think the focus is if we are building a good product, we are sort of focused on users or focused on building a good, durable business that should be reflected over time.
How did you guys decide on the $100 million FDV to launch this at?
So I think I think Rainbow's DNA has always been about being as inclusive as possible. And so worked with CoinList on who's just they are sort of like the largest track record around distribution, as well as sort of given the Class F shares, seemed natural to work with them from a regulatory compliance perspective and trying to find what is an attractive price for their user base to be able to get in ads. Headline number is 100 million sort of FTV. The implied sort of market cap of that at CGE is 18 million.
Yeah, we just wanted to basically get open the opportunity to as many people as possible, in particular sort of our users, which tend to be, regular retail consumers.
I mean, I think one of the things that so many have sort of missed, especially over the last while, because I feel like everybody who's been in crypto for the last 18, like the new blood coming in maybe isn't super, there isn't a lot of new blood coming in. And, I think we go back to the early promises of crypto, this idea of I'm using a product, I'm earning exposure to it. That exposure at some point is going to transition into something that actually has a price. And for folks that maybe weren't around for a Uniswap airdrop or any others, you kind of didn't get that magical feeling. And it seems like that hasn't been a focus over the last little while, as buy and burns, et cetera, have kind of been like the dominant thing here. And so I think it's easy for us to overlook the simple magic of I get to use a product and that product is giving me some ownership in it. And I think, if we come back, that's my return to fundamentals, back to this magical thing that internet money can do, which I think is lost in the tokenized stock discussion. It's lost in a lot of these buy and burn discussion, which is that these tokens are available globally. So, like we can be excited about tokenized stock, but one thing people are missing is like, you're probably not, as somebody who's, working at McDonald's, going to be able to go get exposure to that or buy in early if you're not an accredited investor. And so there's still this magic to crypto. And so I guess alongside this token sale, there is, I believe, an airdrop component to it. And I think that has been maybe for me, one of the biggest shifts I've had in thinking over the last little while is just how complicated it is to both, drive a value narrative of sort of equity-like or ownership-like tokens while also effectively managing an airdrop to people, which is essentially giving, zero cost basis tokens to folks. How have you sort of balanced off those two dynamics in the strategy?
I mean, fundamentally, first of all, like we wouldn't be here today without our users. Like I think Rainbow historically, right? Like we've really never done paid marketing, right? Like all of our growth has been driven from user evangelism, right? People really like the product and sort of share it with their friends or, onboard their friends to Rainbow as being, their first wallet. So yeah, I mean, to us, it's sort of like, yeah, it just seemed like obvious. Like we should be doing an airdrop and sort of including our users and the people who sort of contributed the most to Rainbow's success in the token.
But I think with that part of it is in terms of like token design, asking ourselves like, what is a token that we want to hold ourselves in RPA, or I guess sort of ourselves. Mike always makes fun of me that I say these weird finance terms like PA.
He comes naturally by this collared shirt and Jack. I like this is dynamic. Mike is like, yo, man, I'm out here in my Patagonia.
Yo, they don't know what PA means.
Yeah.
So I think to your question about sort of the growth story is ultimately part of, if you want to be on-chain Robinhood, if you want to ultimately sort of control users' sort of funds by virtue of being a wallet, it's a different level of professionalism and way we need to conduct ourselves, at least on part of it, that sort of damaging the Rainbow brand, the Rainbow voice, the Rainbow DNA. So right, from token design perspective, it's what would we want to hold for the long term ourselves, and then I think is the way we're trying to conduct ourselves around things like voluntary disclosures, around sort of IR, is what would we want to see from a management team that's sort of ultimately managing money on our behalf.
I was very excited to see your investor relationship site. I think it's pretty light today, but you can see where you're planning on going with it, and I think
you guys are going to be one of the first things up on
We'd
it.
love to hear that. I mean, yeah,
Interesting. I missed this. Cool.
no, it's awesome. I
Yeah,
think
investors.rainbow.me.
I think one of the things that has pissed me off the most about recent token launches is teams will write 8 pages on the mechanics of how this token is being launched and distributions, et cetera, and just give you no understanding of the business they're running, the vision they're going after, which is like the prerequisite for me caring about anything else. So I think when I saw that, and looks like you're going to put some metrics up there and, you know, build out an FAQ, it's awesome to see. Yeah, I would love to better understand. I think we've been, pretty clear that in our eyes, like the bull case here is, you have this, you know, kind of fundamental perceived floor value from it having equity linking, but ultimately has, you know, monetary premium and kind of real utility that makes people want to, you know, hold it and use it well beyond just, you know, the value of that kind of underlying equity. So we'd love to, I guess, understand in the short term how you're going to integrate it into the product, and maybe some kind of dreams for what that could look like longer term.
Yeah, I mean, so first, you know, what's going to sort of exist at launch is an evolution of our previous like ETH rewards program. So it's going to be Rainbow rewards, where basically as a user of Rainbow, you know, all of the actions that you take where Rainbow is sort of charging you a fee, part of that fee actually goes and buys back the Rainbow token off of the open market and distributes it back to you, right? So basically just by using the product, you end up becoming, you know, and sort of, have like a stake in the business, right? Beyond that, I mean, so there's a lot, you know, we're exploring a lot, and I think that we can sort of really deeply integrate the Rainbow token into the product. The obvious thing, the sort of like low-hanging fruit, right, is creating sort of like a staking system around that sort of correlates to fee discounts.
Right. I'm interested if there are any like weirder things you guys are exploring here, because I think, you know, if I think about, you know, app tokens, network tokens, I think this is really the most exciting design space for them. I think what Zora is doing by, like, you know, quoting all markets in Zora is a really, you know, a novel example of this that works really well for, you know, for the business and product they're building. I'm curious if there's any kind of weird integrations that you guys are exploring that you think is really kind of native to Rainbow.
There definitely are, but it's honestly, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves and sort of set any expectations there. It'd sort of be better to sort of talk about it when it's ready.
Like the delicate balance. I mean, I would, my sort of takeaway from this conversation so far is that there's sort of like these pendulums that swing very aggressively in crypto, right? And I think, you know, before I would say it's all airdrops. Now it's like, oh, you should just sell all your tokens and not do any airdrops. The thing that's coming through to me here is that, you know, the desire to continuously pull your users in deeper as owners of this protocol is actually, I don't know, it's a bit of a narrative violation for where we are in the market today. I think if we're like deep studiers of it, and my takeaway really is like, oh, I think we've probably just gone too far on the on like the tokens as equity and or buyback and or, you know, this sort of huge opportunity to turn every single one of your users into an evangelizer of your product is actually pretty big. And I think using fees to buy and distribute tokens is actually like maybe on a surface a kind of a boring one, but I actually think it's a pretty big deal. I know, God, I've got Brian Flynn in my ear being like, this is the way how you distribute tokens all the time. I'm like, that motherfucker's probably right again, just always a little too early. So I think maybe the intrigue here is more that you're just saying, hey, we have a pretty clear vision on how we go win here, and we're going to go design a token and integrate that token into our product in a way that we think will help us win, and kind of fuck the weirdness for now. Like there's some pretty basic things just to go do very well.
Yeah, I mean, I think fuck the weirdness. I think really we're sort of hearkening back to, you know, our roots, and sort of this with the Rainbow token, sort of this class F structuring really is like sort of the original dream, right? Like, you know, when I was ideating about a potential Rainbow token in 2019, right, it was something much closer to what we're doing now than any of the like meme coin or governance token sort of hand waving, right? So yeah, I mean, it is sort of back to basics, and now is the time, right? Like, sort of Wall Street is here. They're trying to eat our lunch, but we're gonna fucking beat them because they're new to this, right? They don't. This is not their. Not their environment.
I'm interested to better understand what motivates you guys. So, Mike, you've been on this journey for a while. Like, why are you still here? Why are you going after this huge opportunity? Like, what's driving?
Yeah,
this?
I mean, I always like to point to my co-founder Christian's story because it's much more sort of perfect than mine, right? But fundamentally, like, I grew up on the internet. I'm an internet kid. I sort of, everything I know, who I am today, right, was really sort of driven by permissionless access to the internet, right? And it's obvious to me that sort of DeFi and sort of on-chain finance is just strictly better, right? It's way more inclusive, right? I used to make websites when I was like 12 or 13, and sort of make a couple bucks, right? But if you for example, my co-founder Christian did that as well when he was sort of like 13, 14. But he used to get his PayPal account like nuked all the time because they would find out that he's like a child basically, and and basically that to us is stupid, right? That's not the way it should be. If you sort of are a person in the world and have access to the internet, you should be able to send and receive money sort of on equal terms to everybody else, no matter where you live, sort of no matter what your background is. So really, yes, it's like the permissionless finance really is like the thing that motivates me for sure.
Internet kids. I'm gonna get off into.
I'm a pretty old internet kid at this point, guys. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually like 33. So.
Oh, you're so old, Mike. Oh my god. Oh my god. If you look at this, look at this. This is.
Your beard is impressive.
Yeah. Well,
also the hat.
I know we got to get these hats, dude. We got to get these hats. Okay. I feel like this has been a nice winding conversation, and I think these types of conversations are very useful because really people are making a bet on you guys fundamentally here, right? And I think behind all of these sort of questions around token rights and acquisitions, all that sort of stuff is really the sort of like the intentions and ideologies of their founders. Fundamentally, I think that plays a big role, at least in thinking about how and where I want to be putting my money and or holding tokens. So I think it's been good. But I also think that there's some specifics that we should probably get into here because I think the sale, is it kicking off today? Did it kick off already? Like, let's land the basics. What if people are excited about what Rainbow is up to? How do we get in? What is the best way for us to do that?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're a Rainbow user today, you've been earning Rainbow points, which will sort of get you the airdrop. We have the coinless presale, which is live until Thursday, Thursday, December 18th. Which that presale is open and accessible to everybody in the world. However, there is sort of a special like link for Americans, and then there's a link for everybody else, and you can find those on my Twitter, Rainbow's Twitter, etc. And then today we also announced the final like locked in date for the actual Rainbow token like TGE and airdrop, which is going to be February 5th, which we're quite excited about. So yeah,
I love it. So FTV of 100 million on coin list here, a 33% discount to the last private round. There's about 100% unlock on 1 year after TGE. So maybe we should talk about that. I think there's been a lot of debate around lockups and should you have lockups? You shouldn't have lockups. I think pre-sale buyers here are going to be locked up for a year, I believe.
Only Americans. Yeah.
Okay.
Only US.
I'm on the website. Okay.
So it's in the Rainbow DNA. Obviously, as Mike has described, to be as inclusive as possible. Most pre-sales will sort of not allow US users in and just only be sort of non-US. So if you're outside the US, it's unlocked at TGE.
Okay.
If you are in the US,
and I believe the team is locked up for 4 years and venture investors locked up for 2 years, all of which have a cliff associated with them, I believe, as 1 year. So I'm now
sort of with vesting starting at the date of TGE. So even though sort of Mike and his co-founders founded the business in 2019, vesting on their tokens does not start until TGE.
Long-term aligned. Let's go. Beautiful token unlock schedule here. Yeah, I think you guys have done a great job in communicating this. I'm on the CoinList site right now, and I think it gets into all the details there. So that means you have 2 more days to participate if you're looking to be a pre-sale purchaser here.
Do we have some numbers on how the sales going so far?
So I think overall sales is going very well. I think our biggest concern is just there's a number of people with issues with KYC. If you're having issues, please message Mike, please message me to help make sure that sort of you get your paperwork. And you're
When do we get rid of like we clearly this is the next big opportunity. I know it's sort of like such it reminds me of airport security, right? Where it's theater that makes us feel more comfortable. I don't know if KYC makes us feel more comfortable, but good God, is it?
It's painful. I think that CoinList themselves and the wider sort of industry is sort of evolving and sort of becoming more on chain. The timing here, though, sort of it just needed to happen this way. There really wasn't another option.
I mean, I think people underestimate
yeah.
the risks that these foundations and projects take on if you take some banned money in some way. Like there could be no worse thing. You think about all the securities laws. That's cool. They are far less aggressive than if you're taking in money from Hamas or somebody like that. So kind of important. It's bullish that you guys are doing KYC, unfortunately. Okay, so what happens between the 18th and the 5th?
Sure. So I think it's important for us to complete the Class F transaction as well as give all the customary parties the chance to sort of look at it, exchanges, sort of, et cetera, and wanted to have a date that we can stand behind and commit to and be held accountable to.
And should we expect these to come out in a pretty broadly available way? Like, are we talking centralized exchanges, et cetera? Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Can we ask how those conversations are going? I think there's a lot of open questions around sort of the pricing powers centralized exchanges have versus the quality, credibility, excitedness of the project. So
this it's tricky in terms of it gets into where we want to stand on the IR front in terms of like material non-public information. I guess the easy way to say it is like we are talking to every single exchange who are all sort of very excited. I think doing my diligence, especially around just a better understanding the Class F structure.
Fair answer. I know why you brought the suit now, Mike, because I'd probably get you to give me all the details there, but Alex is like...
Yeah, we're a good yin and yang.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Yeah.
You got any more? I mean, so Josh, I'm just curious. We should let you guys go because I know you guys have a lot of else going on. But
we love this.
I am curious, Josh, just like get out of your sort of interview seat here right now and just think about as a token buyer, a user of this product. Can you grade these guys on how well they've sort of mapped to your desires?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton I love about it. I think the hard part with TGEs is always just, especially when airdrops, $100 million FDV is just, I'm definitely sitting in this seat where like I want to be along for this ride. I've been along, multi-year user of Rainbow. It's my mobile wallet, and I think and will continue to be. Definitely want skin in the game here. The question always comes down to, do I just wait a bit, right? And I think the airdrop, market conditions, $100 million FDV just kind of puts those questions in the head. So
that FDV. So I'm curious what. Because I think there's sort of the FDV and then there's the market cap that's coming out here, right? Which is, the vast majority of
this was sort of like, those numbers were chosen for the pre-sale, right? With the idea of sort of making it more inclusive for the community.
Totally. Right. So because if you're coming out at like most of these tokens aren't going to be on market, you actually have a fairly low float that's coming out. That float is going to be in the hands of users and some early investors. I think it's interesting.
Investors, nothing is hitting the market.
I would consider ICO purchasers here in that bucket. But yeah, you're right. I should use your taxonomy here.
I think in terms. Okay, so I was saying in terms of there's a large amount to the treasury, and hopefully in terms of it's come across in terms of how we carry ourselves and we think about capital allocation in terms of trying to grow things on a per share or sort of per token basis. And so I think if there are opportunities to do M&A and there are things that are high conviction that we think are going to be very creative to token holders. on a particular basis, like, yes, we'll aggressively pursue those and sort of fight to get those deals done if we believe that it is best for token holders. But in terms of things like emissions or things like that, sort of would not expect the Treasury to be actively used.
Yeah, that line did stand out to me. Treasury is intended to be used for high conviction investments, brackets such as M&A that should be accretive on a per token basis. Again, this is another one of those promises that I feel like we've continued to sort of under deliver on. It's like we have tokens as balance sheet expansion technology, and yet, and I think clearly where you guys are fit in that stack, it's really not hard to imagine a multitude of different types of products that could really, you could bring in that would allow you to either expand your sort of your take rate on these sort of things or unlock new types of features pretty effortlessly. Do you guys have targets in mind already? I know you won't answer which, but like, is this part of regular conversation where you sort of see opportunities and part of the sales actually unlocking this sort of M&A movement that could be very valuable here?
I'd say we see a ton of inbound. I would say, I think if we had our preference, it would be all organic growth for the foreseeable future, just given how important UX is to Rainbow as a product, sort of as a company. Oftentimes, sort of when you start to reach on inorganic, oftentimes you lower the bar on sort of UX and how tightly things are integrated, how well they work together. So I'd say for the foreseeable future, we would not expect sort of any M&A. But again, if there is inbound and we believe that we are being offered $1 for 75 cents.
I mean, it's that season, I think, really. I guess the other question is, what is having a token live unlock for you from like a growth motion that you can't do with sort of the points or pre-token?
I think there's the sort of points are always a proxy for token. I think is the experience that Mike has described around sort of real-time Rainbow and cash back. That is always preferable to points, but also you're playing a different game, a different level of scrutiny, both positively and negatively, when you have a live token in market.
Very true story.
Nice. No, I don't think so. I mean, you guys have been very generous with your time. I think awesome to see you guys, iterate and bring a new kind of, token equity linking structure to market. I think we are in dire need of more experimentation and, people holding crypto ideology at their core and putting the legal documents where their mouth is. So love to see this. I think,
Josh, you had a good tweet. You said, crypto isn't institutionalizing, institutions are cryptolizing. Wow. Nicely done.
That was my experience from Breakpoint last week. Really was like, seeing, talking to all these projects who have, product market fit within crypto, are leading categories. They're not like, it seems like less like we're bending towards the needs of the institutions and more like the institutions are seeing a huge opportunity to come and bend to the desires of crypto and get brand awareness almost from partnering in crypto. And I think that's the most bullish thing I've seen.
It's a good time to be building in crypto. Yeah. I think that, like sort of the institutions, they're thirsty and they don't really know how to do this stuff. They don't understand it. We're quite well positioned.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked that you guys are, I think you sort of captured a really unique angle of crypto from the early days, and it's no small task to be able to continue to push that over many years. And I think, TGEs are sort of this weird thing where your entire life is kind of built around getting to that point, and then really the hard work starts. And so I think, as Josh and I always say, I think crypto is clearly talent constrained. And I definitely don't think that's the risk here. So excited for you guys just to, I would just wish this is a huge success and that you can kind of thread this needle between pre-sale, airdrop, product that makes money with huge opportunity in front of it. I think these are the types of things. As I start to think about where the biggest opportunity in the market is right now, I think it is just kind of a comeback to basics and clearly articulate the magic of crypto, because that hasn't changed. It's just been maybe diffused a little bit or distracted by some shiny objects. But if we get right back to the basics here, where else can you still get exposure to a growth asset at an early stage without being an accredited investor and with a network in Silicon Valley? Like, this is still there's still a huge delta between what pre-seed or seed early stage tech is like in the traditional startup world and what's available in crypto. And I think it's our opportunity to kind of make that very clear. And I think you guys are on a good path to supporting that as well.
Permissionless finance is good, guys.
What a concept. All right,
Guys,
dudes.
this was a unbelievably refreshing conversation. Thanks for having us and asking us all of these great questions.
Well, we wish you the best. 2 more days to participate in the CoinList sale. Go to Rainbow.
Oh, we lost you, Jess. You muted,
awesome.
you muted yourself.
How did I do that? That's fun. I haven't done that in a long time. I think I hit the space
Yo, Wall
bar.
Street is hacking us, guys. They're trying to keep us down.
That'd be terrifying, dude. Just get some high frequency trader hacking me here a little bit. Okay, so rainbow.me. I mean, these guys' Twitter account is by far the best place to follow like the machinations on a daily basis here. Love the memes, love the characters you guys have built. You can also go to coinlist.co/rainbow and you can see the token sale there. 2 more days for that. Gents, wish you huge success in this, and would love to sync back up in early February as we approach TGE.
Guys, love the show. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, absolutely love everything you guys are doing. This is like the coolest show.
I mean, I think, share the point of view that you guys have as well. Like, this is just still early days, and the market is huge. Permissionless finance is a big deal, and
we just love crypto. We just actually love crypto, which it seems like most of the timeline doesn't these days. So just
more for us.
It's
baby.
cool. Give them,
More
you know,
yeah.
timeline's bipolar.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'll let you get back to it. Thanks so much.
Peace.